President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has approved a Federal Polytechnic in Gwarinpa, one of the nation's capital. Our correspondent reports that the new institution is also named after the president. In a letter dated January 16, 2025, and addressed to the FCT Minister, Nyesom Wike, the Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, said the federal government had approved the establishment of Bola Ahmed Tinubu Polytechnic, Gwarinpa, to promote technological, vocational, and entrepreneurial training in line with the national policy on education. Meanwhile, the chairman of the Abuja Municipal Area Council, Amak Christopher Zaka Maika Langu, has commended Tinubu for approving the establishment of a Federal Polytechnic in Gwarinpa, a popular estate under the council. In a statement by his special assistant on media and public affairs, Kingsley Madaki Maika Langu, also appreciated the FCT minister for the role he played in making the dreams of FCT residents a reality. I would love to start from me approving a poly in FCT and naming it after himself. What's your opinion on this?
Well, I think we are always facing shadows, chasing shadows. That's how we have decided to politicize all manner of governance in the country. I don't see that as a welcome development on my own part.
Why do you say so?
Because I think it's not by building or approving federal universities, federal polytechnics, or state polytechnics, or polytechnics and all of that. That is not where I think we should be looking at from. We have job, youth are crying for job opportunity. Okay, it's not just building institutions that students will go to school. Students are graduating from school every year. Students are graduating. How many numbers of students do we have graduating from each of the tertiary institutions? We have more than 20,000 students from different states, more than 1 million students from different states that are graduating every annual season. So what are we doing? We should be thinking of how we can be able to create opportunity, declare opportunity in job creation, in wealth creation, of which some of these students can be able to be self-sponsored in their school. A lot of students are orphans, cannot even pay school fees. So we are building a polytechnic or schools, or approving schools for students that may not even be able to pay school fees. Some of these students are not even able to afford their school fees. A lot of students are being deprived of their certificates because of fees. I know how many students, as we speak right now, at my own level, I know how many students calls me per second, demanding for school fees. Just recently, more than 10 students have called me demanding for school fees, that they don't have school fees. But we are supposed to be having opportunity where our state government or federal government or our political system should be able to create an opportunity that youth that are also trying to strive in their own way, on their own, without parents, to be able to succeed without paying, without going to politics, and then succeeding in an entrepreneurship manner, and not only on the basis of being an ally or a supporter to a particular politician or an aide to a political politician. How many politicians, how many aides can you employ or appoint? How many aides can you be able to pay or put on your payroll based on your salary? Now, what are we doing? What is our system? How holistic is our system to create wealth or create job opportunities? I am not happy with the news of approving university or approving polytechnics. That doesn't come to me as a good news. What I think will come to me as a good news is that government should create opportunity that youth and students can be able to go to school and then train themselves. This is the kind of civilized system which we're looking at. That is how it is done. Since our government cannot be able to cater for our tertiary institution fields, and they only pay less attention to these situations. So I think it is the necessity of government to look beyond just approving a university that will be named after you. Because the only glory that Mr. President wants to say in this is that there is a university or there is a polytechnic that is named after him. Go to Gwarinpa. Does even Gwarinpa have that kind of space to accommodate a federal polytechnic? Do we have such a space in Gwarinpa and all of that? So do we have that kind of landmarks that can accommodate a federal polytechnic in Gwarinpa? But because it's a polytechnic that should be built in the city or the city of Abuja, so the president wants his own name to be on the billboard. That's just the political aspect of it. What I see here is the political aspect of it. I am not saying the developmental approach of how it can be able to intensify on the life wire of our youth. Because that is what is important to me as a young man, as a youth leader. What I think that government should do at this point is to create vocational center, create programs, set up skill acquisition programs, declare or lift job opportunities in all the companies. NNPC, when was the last time they employed ordinary persons from the street without going through recommendation? When was the last time CBN employed ordinary citizens from the street without going through recommendation? When was the last time ExxonMobil and Total Earth and the rest other oil companies employed on the street without asking for recommendations? When was the last time NNPC, Port Harcourt refinery or other refinery, even the Dangote refinery, when was the last time that you employed without going through recommendations and then employing people from the street? How many of our top notch companies actually employed from the street without asking for recommendations? So these are the major challenge for the children of nobody. These are the major challenge for those of us that may not have who will speak on our behalf. This is the challenge for those of us that will not be having the opportunity of being recommended. So then what happens to us that may not have the opportunity of being recommended? So Mr. President, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, if you mean well for the youth of Nigerians, if you mean well for even the students you are creating Polytechnic for, that you are not going to pay school fees for them, create an opportunity that will be able to make them be able to pay the school fees in that same school you have approved in your name. That is what is expected. That's what would came to me as a good news, and that's what I expect as good news as an individual.
I'll hold it there. He's emphasizing on the president creating avenues for students, these students to pay. But we know the president having established a student loan.
Yeah, the NEL fund. That's what I want to also remind you.
So do you think creating this polytechnic is also an indication of the right of the president's intention in boosting the educational sector?
Of course, we can't stop. We are growing. We are a growing nation. As at today, even though I have a lot of reservations about it, about our population size, you know, without a census, we can't just be adding 3% every year to our population. We say that is our population, and now we are talking about over 220 million Nigerians. It's not correct. We have to do a proper census in this country. We have to do a proper census. We can, in fact, we are actually planning in a vacuum without without getting at the right census figure. Organizing census shouldn't be a rocket science. We want a credible, acceptable census to be organized so we can actually know our size in terms of population. Now, having said that, there are two issues that are involved here. One, whether it is necessary for us to have a polytechnic established, and two, whether it is appropriate to name the polytechnic after the president
while he's still in seat. Yes, because the norm is that these things are named as honor.
Yes, in honor.
In honor, yes.
After you have left, people can assess, you know, what you have done, and then whatever should be named after you should be named after you. Now I will come to that, but let me first talk about the university. The approval, the NEL fund, that's an education fund, National Education Fund, is there for anybody that is willing to access. You know, when they started on a very rough note with conditions and so on. You have to pay back immediately after you leave school. But over time, it went through the National Assembly, it went through stakeholders' input, and today, you know, the conditions there, you know, they have at least brought them in terms with what is real, reality, that you start paying after you have gotten job. After you have gotten job, you have gotten employment. When you are a bit comfortable. So the conditions are there, everybody has access. So under, we must give the present administration, we must give them that pass mark for having provided that facility. I'm aware that we used to have scholarships, federal government scholarships, but this will only add to whatever we have under NEL fund. Now, the Federal Polytechnic, Gwarinpa, if you look at, they said it is to boost vocational education, entrepreneurial education. Of course, that is what a polytechnic is all about. You are looking at developing some skill sets in such a way that by the time the products of a university leave the university, they are not dependent on government for employment. Government cannot provide employment for everybody. The issues that he has raised are very germane. How many people on the streets without knowing somebody get into employment in this country, both in the private sector and in the public sector. These are issues that are on the front burner when we look at our employment. But the important thing is that, yes, the polytechnic is necessary, and while we look at the other side of the naming, we must also give the credit between the minister, that's Alausa, and that's the Minister of Education, Alausa, and the FCT minister. Yeah. Both of them, one is providing the land and possibly will have to build, while the other at least has gotten the approval, being the Minister of Education. And as many, after all, they still approve universities, private universities up till now. Okay. So there is nothing wrong. Gwarinpa is a very big place. In fact, as a matter of fact, I lived in Gwarinpa for about 8 years. Gwarinpa is a big place. Okay. And the population there, in fact, Gwarinpa has up to phase 6 by the time I was living. Up to phase 6, Gwarinpa. And it's almost bordering Kubwa. Okay. It's almost bordering Kubwa in terms of the length, that it is currently occupying. So if we have, and it has, the space in Gwarinpa is massive. Okay. Like they say, it's the biggest estate in West Africa. Let me put it modestly, in West Africa. Okay. When they started with 1,000 housing units. 1,000 total housing units. And that was maintained. Forget about the fact that now currently, the master plan has been abused. You see nightclubs here and there, but it was purely as a residential area. And that was one estate where we saw Nigerians from all walks of life come to demonstrate their skills, especially in construction. Okay. It was started by Abacha. Okay. Yeah, the late General Abacha, when he was head of state, he started it. And that is where sometimes, when you name public property after some people, some of us don't agree. If it was necessary, as at that time that estate was established with 1,000 housing units, of course Abacha would have taken it to himself. Okay. But now we are seeing, political patronage can both be vertical, starting from the bottom to the top and from top to bottom. Okay. So in some cases, it's now panders towards getting the president's attention, and in some cases people can even say politically get the president's patronage. Well, I am not falling for it. Okay. Because I know that by the time it will still go through the National Assembly. Okay. The National Assembly this is not a policy, they will take it to the National Assembly to actually legislate on the enabling acts. So at that point in time, the issue of naming and all those things will come to the front burner, and Nigerians will look at it. A situation where everybody now wants to name one institution or the other that you have established. I read one the other day where even the passports, that's what they call them now, Ministry of Interior, one of their major biometric centers, or one of their major centers for information, is also named, still within these 2 years, named after the president. I think the president also has a responsibility to make sure that some of his ministers, that he also calls them to order to stay away, in fact, from such things. Okay. There's a time for him to be properly assessed, and after he has left office, if they need to name those things after him, then it will be right. But if it is in terms of approval of the Polytechnic, the Minister of Health is trying to upgrade all structures, both infrastructure and the things that are not there, making sure that the FCT, as it is being equated at the same level as a state, that everything that they ought to have, that they have it. Okay. So he's doing that. But the naming, that is where the issue, we have to avoid such things.
All right.